Sure. Last November became very symptomatic. I know exactly what those symptoms feel like. I know what my body goes through. And early on, the first couple of days or so, I thought maybe I was fighting off either a sinus infection or allergic reaction. But then again, I realized quite soon thereafter, once I started having the high fevers, the chills, the body aches were a dead giveaway that something was not normal. Yeah, it was actually after, it became more widespread and more prevalent and people were talking about it here in the States that I thought back and said, you know what? I'm not quite sure that I had the flu as I was initially led to believe. And I was at a conference in November. There were a lot of people there. And that's almost positive where I believe I initially contracted it. I became symptomatic while I was there, and it got far worse as I left the conference. After everything became pretty widespread and prevalent here, we knew about it now, we knew what the symptoms were. I had been telling people that there's no doubt in my mind I had coronavirus back in November. Of course, people just kind of said, yeah, probably. Nobody really seemed to follow timelines at that point. And frankly, I had absolutely no reason to think to go get an antibody test. I don't think January, February, March, we even knew what an antibody test was. I did test positive corona antibody, and I believe that I had it in November when I was gravely ill, sicker than I've ever been in my adult life with nearly every single one of the symptoms. I never ever said I had an absolute certainty. There's two options here. Either I was sick in November. Option B is I was recently positive, but I was asymptomatic. The problem with the more recently is that my test shows two antibodies. It's the antibody that has IgG, and I believe it's IgM. IgM is the more recent antibody. IgG is the longer term one that's been in your system for the longer amount of time, and that's the one I tested positive for. So when you couple together my symptoms, when you couple together the fact that the antibody test was positive, when you couple together the fact that I had the longer antibody in my system, and there's no way anybody will ever convince me that I was asymptomatic because nobody I've been around recently has tested positive.